We are continuing to follow the legal developments involving an Eastern Kentucky sheriff charged with killing a district court judge. Letcher County Sheriff Mickey Stines will be arraigned tomorrow, facing a murder charge in the shooting death of Judge Kevin Mullins last week. The arraignment will take place in Letcher County. WKYT's Kristen Kennedy has the latest updates on the proceedings and what to expect moving forward.
The judge presiding over Sheriff Mickey Stines' arraignment is actually a district court judge for Carter, Elliot, and Morgan counties. For context, defendants usually appear in front of their district's judge. But for Sheriff Stines, that was Judge Kevin Mullins, the man that he is accused of killing. At the arraignment, Judge Will Hoyt will read out the charges that Sheriff Stines is facing. A plea will be entered on his behalf and a bail set. The judge will also set a preliminary hearing, and at that meeting, the judge will determine if there is enough evidence to send the case to the grand jury. If the grand jury indicts, he will then be formally charged in circuit court. But Sheriff Stines won't be in court for his arraignment. He will appear virtually before a special judge tomorrow. He is being held outside of Letcher County, and that is for safety concerns. The state doesn't want a sheriff sharing a cell with individuals he previously arrested. Stines is being held about an hour away in Leslie County. For WKYT Investigates, I'm Kristen Kennedy.